For number 1 on our outline, we have a set of 2 independent variables here, x and y. They give us the mean and standard deviation for both. And they want us to do these transformations to each of these and get the answer. So for the first one, they want us to take the y variable and multiply it by 0.8. So for the mean, the new mean would just be 300, which is the original y, and then times 0.8, because we're multiplying it by 0.8, and that is going to give us 240 as our answer. So you just multiply it. When you multiply by a number, you just multiply the mean, and you do the same thing to the standard deviation as well. So it would be 16 times 0.8, and let me calculate that real quick. 16 times 0.8 is 12.8. So the standard deviation would be 12.8. All right, so for B, they give us 2x minus 100. For the mean, pretty much the way it's always going to work on these is you just plug in your mean value and you'll get your answer. So it's 2 times, and then 120 over here, 120 minus 100, which is 2 times 120 is 240 minus 100. That is 140 for my mean. And for my standard deviation, I'm going to double it. 2 times, my standard deviation is 12, so that is 24. And you have to remember that when you add or subtract a constant like this, it doesn't do anything to the standard deviation. And let me show you why over here. I should do a quick lesson here. Say we got 1 and 10 right here. If I were to add a number like 100 to them, add or subtract. So I add 100 to them, and I end up with 100 and 110. You can see, well, they started out 9 away from each other, and when I added 100 to both of them, they're still 9 away from each other. It's the same thing if you subtract as well. If you add or subtract just a constant number, it does not change the standard deviation, so the standard deviation will stay at 24. So that is A and B. Okay, so let's go to part C of this problem where it is x plus 2y. For my mean, once again, it stays the same where I just plug in the numbers. So I'm going to get x is 120 plus 2 times y, which is 300. See, that is x plus 2y. And so I get 120 plus 600. And that is 720 will be my answer for the mean. Now for standard deviation, you have to remember the Pythagorean rule. When you add 2 variables like this together, 2 different variables, you have to use the Pythagorean rule, which is going to be you're going to square root the 2 of them added together, which is x squared plus 2y squared, like that. So you take your 2 terms and you square them and add them together and then square root them, almost like you would with the Pythagorean theorem. So it'd be the square root of 12 squared plus 2 times y, which is 2 times 16 squared. So that will be the square root of 12 squared plus 32 squared. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. So it's the square root of 12 squared plus 32 squared. Enter, and I get 34.176. So I get 34.176 is my answer for C. All right, for D, I get 3x minus y. So my mean is just going to plug the numbers in. So it'd be 3 times 120 minus 300. And let's see, I get 3 times 120 is 360 minus 300, and that is 60. So my mean is just 60. Every time you just plug in your answers. Well, you plug in your numbers and you'll get your answer. So for standard deviation, once again, I'm adding two different letters together. So you're going to square root 3x squared plus y squared. So whatever your terms are, the 3x and the y, doesn't matter if you're adding or subtracting them in the original equation, you're going to add when you do your standard deviation, because no matter if you add or subtract two sets of numbers, the standard deviation gets bigger and you need to add them together. So I'm going to do that right there. Let's see, I get the square root of 3x is 3 times 12 squared plus 16 squared. And that is the square root of 36 squared plus 16 squared. And let me put that in my calculator. The square root of 36 squared plus 16 squared. And I get 39.3954. There's my answer. All right, and the last one is E. Well, we got two more actually, E and F. So let me get to those. For E, what we're going to do is it's y1 plus y2. So we're doing y twice. We're adding y onto itself. For the mean, that's just going to be 300 plus 300. So we're like doing that event twice. 300 plus 300 is going to be 600. For the standard deviation, it's going to be the square root of y squared plus y squared. Now the paper had like a big 1 and a big 2. What it meant was this subscript 1 and 2. It's like y happening 2 times. So it'd be the square root of 16 squared plus 16 squared. So let's get the calculator. And do 16 squared plus 16 squared. The square root of 16 squared plus 16 squared. And hit enter, we get 22.6274 equals 22.6274 is my answer on that one. All right, and the last one, F, we're going to do x 15 times. So on this one, my mean is going to be, I'm going to multiply it by 15. So x is 120, so it's 120 times 15. So 15 times 120 is 1800. And for my standard deviation, if you think about it, we're doing it 15 times, so it's this 15 times 12 squared plus 12 squared plus 12 squared, and it would be 15 times. And that can be written as this right here. You can do 12 squared times 15 like that. 12 squared times 15, because we're just doing it 15 times. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. All right. So the square root of 12 squared times 15. I get 46.4758. 46.4758 will be the answer for my standard deviation of doing x 15 times. All right, so that is number 1 on our outline.